Hi, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I'm Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani, the show team in place, and it's great that you're there, the Take Two family, because we're going to count on you for another great program with your insights, your wisdom, your lived experiences, and you're going to help to edify and inspire all of us. Debbie, looking forward to another lively conversation today. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Well, not so
Good.
well. Gracie's not doing any better, so we have an emergency appointment again. So thanks for the prayers to the Take Two family. Her eyes are completely swollen shut. It's just a mess. Anyway,
Well, for those who don't know, you should probably tell them Gracie's your dog.
Oh, that's right. Gracie's our Maltese. She's turned 13 last week. I just think everybody knows about Gracie because it's all about Grace. And in her eyes, for some reason, she picked up something. I don't know if it's an infection or she got hurt or something in her eyes, but they're completely swollen shut. She's just banging into walls and not doing good, and it's not good. Anyway, but you know what? Life goes on. She's got a lot of prayers from the Take Two family, so that's been wonderful. Thank you so much to everybody who cares so much about our wonderful pets that bring us such joy in our life. And you know what? This ties in nicely to the topic today, Jerry, because we're talking about shaking off negativity and thriving. Okay, shaking off those critical comments that are made about us. And, you think about our pets, they are so unconditionally loving. They don't have anything bad to feel or say about us, right?
Right.
And they just accept us for who we are. But when we encounter, friends and family members and coworkers and even, strangers, just chance encounters, there can be some critical comments, not constructive criticism, but real critical comments. That what do we do with that? How do we get past it and use it to our benefit? I think that's where we're going today with Take Two. Please, so we need to hear from you. How do you deal with it? 833-288-3986. Did I get that right, Jerry?
Absolutely. As is the case with many of us, perhaps you had a parent who subjected you to heavy criticism or negativity, never really had a kind word to say to you, or maybe they had some kind words to say, but it was always peppered with criticisms and negative thoughts and comments and so forth. Maybe it came from another student in your school. That was really a big experience that I had, which I can certainly share if time allows. Students can be very, very mean to each other. It might even be an ongoing thing with your spouse right now. Maybe you've got a spouse who just criticizes you a lot, is very negative about you. And then what do we do with these thoughts? Have you overcome these to become a better person, the person God created you to be? If you have, share it at 833-288-3986.
So we really need to hear from you today, and let's just talk about some practical encounters and practical tips on how to handle those negative comments, those critical comments that come your way. When somebody throws, an observation or something that seems rather critical, the first reaction is just that, a first reaction. And usually it's not a good one because it's hard to hear that. And so initially there's this need or this knee-jerk reaction to say something or to defend or to do something to get it away and off of you, or point it back to the person, because very quickly you can circle it around and say, wait a minute, you're criticizing me? That's exactly what you do. Right. And so one of the practical ways of getting through those types of critical comments is to stop the first reaction, even if it's for a couple seconds, because in those few moments you can really regroup and respond. Excuse me. It's allergies. It must be allergies. I wonder if that's what Gracie has. We must all have allergies out here. So go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, well, and I love the direction you were going with that. If we can just take that short little pause. And I think what will help us do that is to really understand who we are. We're made in the image and likeness of God. We have a dignity and worth that is unrepeatable, and we are worth more than all the gold and silver and money in the world. And as long as we know that, not in an arrogant sort of way, like our chest stuck out or whatever, but really standing secure, standing tall in our self-identity before God, then that can certainly help in the way that we react or respond to these situations. So here's our phone number again, 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. Has there been any time in your life when you maybe it's even ongoing now, but maybe it was when you were a kid, when you were subjected to a lot of heavy criticism or negativity? Did that help to shape how you see yourself? Did that help to shape your behavioral patterns in certain ways? Let's talk about this. 833-288-3986.
Well, it's interesting you're saying that, Jerry, because a lot of times when we're raised in that kind of environment, we tend to absorb that on some level. And then we believe that as we get older, it starts to come back. And it's a lot of work needs to be done working through those fixed beliefs or those things that were told to you or you started to tell yourself, and you started to really go that way. You really started to think that's the way it was for you. So there's a lot of things that you really have to look at when you're dealing with critical comments. Constructive criticism, when handled in a beautiful, charitable way, can be very beneficial. Destructive criticism can have lifelong, ramifications. It's really damaging to the spirit. But going back to what I said before, I had that choking jag there. Is stopping your first reaction, I think, is very key, because if you can pull back and really think about it and decide if this really is a true statement or if this is something that this person they're just projecting onto you and that's their own issue, then you can determine how to respond and go forward and really use it in a beneficial way. There's so many aspects to this, Jerry. You see where I'm going. I mean, there's very many levels, but we really need our listeners to weigh in and tell us how they have dealt with these negative comments, these criticisms, even growing up, how you've managed to work through that and turn it into something positive, maybe. Let's hear about it. 833-288-3986.
We certainly hope that if you've experienced that, it has led you to just be determined to be the best that you can be, not in any kind of vengeful way, not seeking revenge or anything, but simply saying, all right, you know what? That's not true about me. I know it's not true about me, and I am going to be my very best. Have you done that? 833-288-3986.
Check out EWTN's official YouTube channel.
Just follow the link on our homepage at EWTN.com or go to YouTube.com/EWTN.
Watch EWTN's live shows or today's homily from the Daily Mass.
Click the upload button to see our most recent clips.
You can also find all of EWTN YouTube content by clicking the playlist button.
It's all on the official EWTN YouTube channel at YouTube.com/EWTN.
Visit today.
EWTN, teaching the truth.
I love your show. I was raised in a Southern Baptist environment, in and out of church since I was a teenager. But since listening to your show the last several months, I'm in the process of converting to Catholicism.
Ever since I started listening, I've been learning a lot, and I've been very intrigued by some of the things you guys discuss. I want to learn more, and I have a thirst for learning.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
We need to pray because God says to pray. We don't need to pray to change God's mind. We pray because that is our big connection to the Almighty. Do we need it? Like we need air? Like we need water? Yep. Because if, in fact, God is the ultimate reality, more reality than air and water, then we do need to pray as much as we need to breathe.
Okay, and hopefully we're going to have an interesting discussion today with your help. If you'll just dial in at 833-288-3986. It's your show, Take Two, with Jerry and Debbie and you. We say this each and every day, every weekday. If you're not Catholic, please call in. You're part of the Take Two family. We need your life experience. We're talking about shaking off that negativity we all maybe grew up with, worked around, we have in our families. And how do we work through that and actually thrive? Come out the other end thriving instead of really having it take a toll on us. Just real quickly, Jerry, before we get to the phones, I just wanted to highlight the Sunrise Morning Show with Anna Mitchell and Matt Swaim. They do such a great job. Monday through Friday morning, 6 Eastern time on EWTN Radio. Anna and Matt start your day with news and interviews with a Catholic perspective. And tomorrow they have Steve Ray, who discusses the life of St. Martha for her feast day. And we're going to be doing a show on that as well. How are you, Martha, to others? Liz Lev introduces us to Catholic African-American artist Edmania Lewis. And Gary Zimak offers his weekly verse to help ease anxiety. Pretty cool. So catch the Sunrise Morning Show tomorrow, 6 Eastern time on EWTN Radio.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't think there's anyone among us who has not had unfair criticism, negativity, just stuff thrown at you, words, maybe even looks or behaviors on the part of other people, the way you've been treated, that didn't change your life in some way. But we want to hear how, hopefully, God willing, you have used it as an impetus to bettering yourself, to saying, wait a minute, I'm not that person. Here's the person I'm going to be. And just real briefly, Debbie, I'll share. I mentioned an experience of mine in school. As you know, and many others know, I was born with club feet. And so I run funny, I walk funny, I run funny, my feet, kind of walk on the outside, balls of my feet, and get all kinds of problems, foot problems throughout my life. But anyway, so I played all different sports in high school, and my nickname was Two Left Feet. All the other kids, all the other basketball players said, hey, there goes Two Left Feet again, just because of the way I ran funny. I was slower than everybody else. I couldn't jump as well as anybody else, and I tried not to let it get to me, and actually, I don't say this to brag, but I was awarded the outstanding senior student athlete in my class. I tried to rise above that, not by, throwing back at them what they gave to me, which I probably did at times, but by just trying to be the best person I could possibly be. And maybe I'm an overachiever. What do you call it? A super achiever? You don't like the word overachiever, right? It's what's the other way you term that?
High achiever.
High achiever, yeah.
Jerry, so let me just for our listeners' sake, maybe this could help them to decide if they wanted to call in. By the way, Michael McCall is answering the phones today, and he does a great job. So please call in at 833-288-3986. Okay, so we're talking about, stopping the first reaction when something like that comes your way. But think about it if somebody were to share with you, better ways for you to run, or for you to be, faster, given that you were born, with this, and that you would happily accept, right? But because somebody chose to call you, what do they say? Two left feet?
Two left feet, yeah.
Okay. You see how, almost, 50 years later, you still remember that. Mm-hmm. And so you see the impact, even though you were awarded and you excelled and you did really well and you went through it, you still remember it, correct? It's still there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see the impact, the power of words, and it can be used to, to motivate people to say, I'm going to get past this. I'm not going to be labeled that. There's no way I'm going to be like that. I was called that too many times, and I'm going to do the exact opposite. And yeah, that does have the outcome can be very positive. But still, don't you think it's left some kind of, some wounds, some scars, in the sense that that must have been really difficult for you as a young child, a teen, to handle that. Just to hear that on, as comments. I mean, because it's really not a very kind thing to say.
No, you're right. It's with me all these years later. And I can still remember it. I see it in my mind as clearly as if it was yesterday. Running wind sprints during basketball, I was always last, always. And we had these guys who could just sprint, fly almost like cheetahs, and I thought, man alive, these guys are fast. And I always finished last. And here's another thing too. There were certain drills that we did, and the coach said, if any of you don't finish under, say, 30 seconds, you all have to do it again. Well, guess what happened? I was always last, and typically I didn't make it in the time allotted, so we all had to run them again until Coach finally just relented. And I guess he finally understood, Jerry just simply can't do this. It was not physically possible for me to do it. It wasn't that I wasn't trying.
Right. See, this is interesting. This is an interesting discussion. We're going to have some really deep thoughts about this. I just wanted to share before we get to Tracy, please jump. We have some open phone lines. Please jump on the line if you'd like to weigh in on this, maybe impart some of your wisdom. 833-288-3986. We talked about not quickly reacting, taking time to respond, but also get some clarification. When somebody shares something with you, whether if it's coming at you in a critical sense or in a constructive way, get some clarification. I hear you saying this. Is this what you are trying to share with me? Would you like me to do this? That, get some clarification. And then I think it's very healthy to pick and choose what's going to work for you and reject those that are just not true, and that's really being pointed at you, so maybe from their own wounds and their place in life, and then you reject that. My aunt, the Dominican sister who's still alive, she's in her 90s, she just had her birthday this month, July 15th. She always used to say, whenever something negative is coming at you and it is not going to benefit you, you say cancel, cancel, cancel. You get it out of your brain, because if you don't get it out of your brain, it's just going to stay in there and it's just going to make a home. And then the last thing I just want to say real quickly, Jerry, there's also, now we're not talking about what happened to you growing up, because I think that's cruel how other kids can do that. I think it's cruel. I was called names myself. I was at the receiving end of that when I was growing up, and it's very hurtful, and it does stay with you for a long, long time. But the other thing, if something's coming at you that's very constructive, there is that wonderful, mature place of saying thank you. Thank you to that person for taking the time to really impart things to you that can help you. And I think we miss that part of saying thank you. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, and I think that as the younger that we are, I think that is probably not quite yet a part of our maturation process, but definitely throughout as we go through life, yeah, for sure, to be able to thank people.
And we'll share some more of those. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think I think it's a very beautiful thing when someone very gently and charitably and politely offers constructive criticism, because they want to see that person better. They don't want to tear them down. They want to see them be the best they can be.
Well, but let's face it, a lot of people, even in trying to be helpful to others, there's you can always kind of drill down, and there is a little bit of a selfish need in there. I've met some people that, they'll say something like, I really want you to improve in this area. And then when you really turn it around, you're thinking this is just something they can't deal with, and they want it to change. And so, you have to kind of decipher through, you have to kind of work through that to see what really is at the heart of it. But Jerry, real quickly, before we get to Tracy, this person that used to call you, was it a group of kids, or was it a friend of yours, or did you even like this classmate? I'm just curious.
Well, the weird thing is we were all friends. This was just the climate, at least back when I was in junior high and high school. I didn't take it all that personally. I might have actually. Maybe I just wasn't consciously aware of that. But no, these were teammates, classmates, teammates. Usually from the guys. Some of them were in the other grades. But yeah, we were. I would say we were friends.
Wow. And one more question. Did you ever call people names?
No. Okay. I'm kidding. No, I probably did. I don't remember. Yeah, I'm sure I did. Everybody did that. It was just kind of the things that we did. So. Okay.
I was just curious. I was trying to get the makeup of it.
Trying to out me here.
No, I was just trying to figure out, where everybody's come from was, but That's interesting. But we should revisit your situation when you were growing up too, because I think we can all relate to it on some level. But let's hear what Tracy has to say in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, listening on Sirius XM 130 as a first-time caller. Hi, Tracy. Welcome.
Hi. I'm so glad that you guys were able to get me on.
Sure.
This is actually one of many topics that I've been trying to get in touch with you guys, but every time it just never seemed to work out. I was like in the middle of going somewhere and couldn't stay on the phone. But all my life, I know my mom, my relatives, they all meant well, but I think they were growing up from a big family, I think, and their father was killed tragically in a coal mining accident. So I think a lot of their anger and their abrasiveness was because of the what they experienced as children, with the loss of their father and how they grew up. And unfortunately, it was kind of, I know my mom loved me and loved my brothers and I and my dad, but she was always very, very abrasive with everything. It wasn't a gentle way of telling you to do something. It was always, oh, I can't believe you didn't do this right, or, it was always negative. And, I know, some children are unable to overcome that, but for whatever reason, I don't know if maybe I was just a stronger person, but I was able to overcome that. And as I got older, and started having my own children, my mom was a very big part of my life, and it just got to a point in, with the negativity that I had to remove myself from her. It was hard. And I know I hurt her feelings. I know I did, but it was the only way that I knew how to heal and make myself not turn into someone like her, because I could see my actions to others, whether it be, going to a grocery store or, taking out my anger on a teller, a clerk, or even my own family, and I saw myself starting to turn into her, and I didn't like that part of me. So I had to remove myself from her. And what took me to do that was my husband went to Iraq. He was a National Guardsman, and his unit was activated. He went to Iraq. And, of course, my mom, with all this negativity, I think it would have been very hard for me to do it in any other situation. But, she was like, I can't believe you're not mad at this and you're not mad at that. And, your husband this and your husband that. And I'm like, Mom, you need to understand. I'm in survival mode right now. I need to take care of my children. I need to pray for my family, my husband, and make sure that everyone, whenever all this is said and done, that we come back as a family unit and my husband comes home, uninjured, unharmed, and we can just pick up where our lives kind of was abruptly changed because of him being gone. So at that point, I realized, I need to stay away from this negativity. So I kind of removed myself from her. I didn't talk to her as often. I only called when I knew I could handle her. And that's kind of my, take on, living with negativity. Like I said, my mom, I know she loved me. I know she cared about me. But I just don't know if she really knew any other way of showing her loving and caring.
Right.
That's kind of, what I experienced. And there's a lot of other things that, I've been through over the years, that my mom was not very supportive, or just, I look back and I know this is probably it for a lot of other people too. And I think sometimes the criticism, from a parent, I think a lot of times the criticism is because they're trying to do what's best for you. They don't necessarily mean to be so mean and harsh. But as we know, it's very hurtful, when you feel like you're not doing anything, that they're happy about. Now, mind you, I was an adult. I was a non-traditional student. I married at 19. My husband and I have been happily married. We've had our ups and downs over the years. We've been married for 32 years. I was 19 when I got married. My husband was 21. And, neither one of us went to college until after, we were older, because my husband was active duty for 4 years, and he went to school, and then I went to school after he was done, and we supported one another. But, of course, I got the negativity from my mom. Aren't you happy with your job? No, Mom, I want to go back to school and better myself. Oh, I can't believe blah, blah, blah. So it was like the constant negativity. And it was almost like, and I'm sure many of your listeners will agree, I think sometimes the negativity should make you feel like, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. Forget this, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Tracy, hold that thought right there. You have laid so much out here for us to discuss, which is right on topic today. Tracy in Pittsburgh, hold on. We got Marianne and others as well. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Shaking off negativity and becoming better because of it is our topic today.
Father Larry Richards.
God is the God of life. God is the God of love. So when we conform our life to His life and His will, it's always life-giving. Always.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Hi, this is Debbie Georgiani.
And I'm Jerry Usher.
Have you joined our Inspired by Faith book club yet? Log on to standtalltoday.com and click on the book club tab.
Our facilitator, Gigi, picks a great book each month for us to read together.
Then we have a virtual conversation about it at the end of the month.
It's a great way to make sure spiritual reading is part of your daily life.
Again, go to standtalltoday.com and follow the link to register for the Inspired by Faith book club.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
Every day, men are bombarded with messages that to be a real man, we have to buy this, do that, or act this way. Men, are you listening? You're already a man, and you're manly, because that's how God made you. Pope John Paul II's theology of the body reminds men that just by possessing a man's DNA, you are encoded with God's spiritual and physical gifts of masculinity. Yes, you can always work to become a better, a godlier, stronger, or gentler man, but no matter how badly you fail or how much you struggle, nobody can take your manliness away from you. Masculinity is a God-given gift, planted deep within each man, and while it can always be developed, you don't have to earn it, and nothing you do can make you lose it. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. You don't have to be a woman to enjoy Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Great to have you here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Talking with Tracy in Pittsburgh, a first-time caller listening on Sirius XM 130. And we're talking about negativity, shaking off negativity and undue criticism, and trying to be the best person that we can be in spite of that, or maybe even because of that. And as Tracy was talking, Debbie, I was thinking that, her mother who lost her father in that coal mining accident, and then she had all of this negativity toward Tracy. It just seems like a lot of it, maybe she had not dealt with the anger and the pain from losing her father, and that might have been a big part of it. I know that I had some similar issues with my mother. She, kind of a controlling type, and I used to think to myself, I'm not responsible for her emotional well-being. And Tracy actually took the very bold and sometimes unusual step of kind of putting distance between herself and her mother, which has to be very, very painful for both, maybe especially the mother. But here's Tracy with her husband and her kids and trying to raise their family. And, it's like you'd be outside and it's pouring down rain right on top of you, and you look 10 feet away and the sun is shining. You're going to want to move to where the sun is shining. You don't want to stay under that continuous rain cloud. So those are my first thoughts on that anyway.
I mean, I'm not an expert in this, Tracy, but I used to do corporate trainings, and we used to talk about this idea of, building up morale and stuff like that. And it would often come out in the various trainings that when upper management had things that were being thrown on them, okay, what they would do is they would handle what they could handle, whether it was negative or positive, and they accepted as much positive as they could, as they, because that definitely fed their egos, and then they would reject the rest of it, and it would kind of flow downstream, and it would hit all the other levels of the org chart. And I think the same happens in families and in relationships. It's just there's only so much that people can handle if they don't deal with it, and they actually pass it on. It's kind of like hot potato. Remember that old game, hot potato, and you throw it as quick as possible to the next person because you didn't want that thing, and the game ending with you holding the hot potato, right? So you throw it to the next person, and as long as it's off of them, somehow you were safe. Did you ever experience that kind of feeling?
Oh, absolutely. And I would agree with what Jerry said. I know for a fact that my mom and her family never dealt with the tragic death of their father. And I know, like, after, the point in my life when I had to say, you know what, I need to remove myself from this situation, my mom started getting herself into legal problems, because it was almost like her attention, no longer I was allowing her to put that negativity into my life, and she unfortunately involved other people with that negativity and with whatever was going on in her mind. And unfortunately, my mom passed away 5 years ago, but we were never really fully able to understand what her true problem was, because she never, let anybody in enough to help her with her anger and mental health issues that she had. And, it's still, to this day, it hurts me, because I know that as her daughter, I've done everything I can to try and help her. But unfortunately, there comes a time where you have to accept the fact that sometimes people don't accept that help. They don't know how to, I don't know if it's they don't know how to accept it, or they don't want it, or a combination, but, that's kind of where I've been with my mom for a while, even when she was alive. I mean, but still to this day, there are times that I think, God, I wish, there was something else I could have done that maybe could have helped her, but
Well, but Tracy, yeah, let me just jump in, because you can hear how much you love and honor your mother, and rightly so. Okay, you're a beautiful daughter, but I just have to say this, because it troubles me when I hear children, even adult children or young children say that there's something they could do. It was not your issue to solve. It was not your problem. It was your mom's issue. It was her issues. It was what she had to deal with. And she, for whatever reason, out of fear or not knowing how to do it, or it was coping, or she just was surviving, or this is the way she knew how to just maintain her life, she chose not to address it. And it spilled over onto you. You did nothing wrong. If you the way you described the situation, you in a very healthy, charitable way, distanced yourself, set up boundaries so that it didn't come into your territory. Because here's the thing: if it had overwhelmed you, it could have possibly spilled over in your relationships, and then it keeps going and going and going. It's that old thing. It's that old television commercial. But Tracy, there's nothing I think you could have done. I think that's a trick that all of us kids got into, and even as adult children, we struggle with, thinking that we could have corrected what happened with our parents. They were the adults. We weren't. Yeah. Right?
That is true. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I mean, and like you said, though, I did notice it trickling into my own family, my own immediate family. I was becoming very aggressive and angry, and that was, her anger was feeding into me and causing me to be the same way with those around me. And like I said, I felt it was healthy for me to remove. And you know, it I know it hurt her, and it hurt me as well, but I had to do what was right for me and my family.
Right. You have to protect your family, absolutely. And it doesn't mean you don't love your mom. You love your mom so much. You have to do this in order to break that chain, because it will just keep going. What do you think, Jerry? This is a very deep subject. I'm sure the pop checks, if they're listening right now as counselors, they'd be saying, you know, these are the things that they work with and work through when they have their clients come.
Yeah, I think, and let's face it, you know, Tracy and all of us, you know, who have had people in our lives like this, they're not bad people. You know, we just want to acknowledge that they don't wake up one day and decide this is how they're going to act toward maybe their children or their other family members or whatever. Maybe it's subconscious, but there's this sense of somehow the world hasn't been fair to me. You know, something was unfair in my life, and I'm angry about that now. And of course, working through anger, my understanding of it means you have to go to the heart of the place that brought about the pain in the first place. It's kind of like peering into the empty tomb. You know, you're uncertain what you're going to see, but once you go there, you realize you're not as afraid of it anymore, and you actually see resurrection once you go into that empty tomb. So, yeah.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, because my mom was a very loving, caring, and generous. I mean, you know, my parents ended up in divorce when I was like 15, 16 years old, and you know, I think there were a lot of issues that my mom had that, unfortunately, like you said, she was unable to deal with or unable to fully come to terms with it all. But I mean, she was, you know, the rock of our family. I mean, if it wasn't for our mom, I don't know how we would have, you know, turned out. I mean, honestly, I mean, and nothing negative against my dad. I mean, I loved him and I cared about him, but he really wasn't around much for us as kids. You know, so a lot of that was put on my mom, you know, being mom and dad a lot of times. So,
but Tracy,
I mean, I did.
Yeah. Tracy, Jerry just typed something over, and I couldn't agree more about this idea of where your mom's, where her heart was at and head was at with everybody else she encountered. Meaning, if she was not in a good place, if she was feeling bad about herself or having these feelings that she didn't know how to deal with, and they just felt really overwhelming in a negative sense, it's kind of like that old saying, you know, misery loves company. You tend to want to project that onto others, and so then it makes you feel like you're in familiar surroundings, you're in a familiar territory. If everybody else around you is moving ahead and coping with things and thriving and showing signs of joy and happiness, it doesn't quite compute. It doesn't quite resonate to where you're feeling at that moment if you're in that place. So, I mean, I know your mom has passed, but God stands outside of time. Life is a very interesting mystery. All of it is. It's a miraculous thing that God has planned. I would also say too that a beautiful way to kind of heal this is, I think, you know, sharing it what you did today, but even bringing it into prayer and saying, you know that your mom has passed, but you know, just even looking at her, rewinding her whole life here on earth, you would love for her to have full, a full understanding and you know, a reconciliation and a growth from everything. Just kind of replay it, just to kind of heal it. I did that in my mind with my dad after he passed, and everybody said, "But he's gone, he's dead." But it was healthy for me, and it also allowed me to have a lot of sympathy for him.
Yeah, you still need that healing, and I honestly, I have been praying on this, and you know, I truly believe my mom did what she did because she loved and cared about me, and she didn't know any other way of doing things, and I think she didn't like people to be lazy, and you know, it was just her way of dealing with trying to, I guess, make me come out of my shell and be the best person I could be. And you know, I thank my mom for who I am, even though, you know, some of her tactics were a little more unorthodox, I guess you could say. But you know, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for what I've, been through and what I've, what she's, her love and care and support. And even though the negativity was there, it's still, her love and support, I think, overshined everything else.
Yeah. And that's a great point to make. Maybe as we tie up this phone call here with you, Tracy, and let you go. We've kept you on a long time, but we need to definitely acknowledge that. Our parents, at the end of the day, they mean well. They have great love for their children. They brought us into the world. We owe everything that we are to them, of course, and God, our Creator. But we do have to recognize the love and the care and the concern, and really the fact that they do want us to be our very best. And sometimes they will that and try and help us do that in an imperfect way. But
the words just don't match up with what's in their heart. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Tracy, it sounds like you've done a lot of work on this, and we're just so happy that you called today because I know you've helped so many souls. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please call again. You're not a first-time caller any longer. Frank, hold on. We're going to get to you real quickly, Jerry. I just wanted to share. I mentioned my dad who died 10 years ago. I remember when he was dying in the last year of his life, my mother said, she said to my dad, we called him Buddy. His name was Bill. And my mom said, Buddy, do you think the reason why you have so much anger and rage and short temper and everything, it's probably because when you were a little kid and your house burned down and all your siblings went to go live with your nice grandparent and you were the only child that got shipped to the other grandparent. And he was a little boy. Yeah. And my dad started crying. Wow. And my dad started crying, and he remembers it so vividly. And he was a small child. He was the only one of his 5 siblings that got separated out and had to go live with somebody else. Now, why would my grandmother do? I don't understand that. Didn't she realize he was going to feel so? And he lost his home in a fire and everything. But when you go back and look at that, you can see then why he carried all this and didn't have any real way to process it. And so because of that, it spilled over into our family. It's very interesting. I often used to say people, go back to their early childhood and you'll learn a lot about people.
Absolutely. Tracy, thank you again. God bless you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and we appreciate you calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Just before we go to Frank, I want to mention EWTN's podcasting. Podcasting, of course, is now swept the world. A lot of people listen to their favorite shows on podcasting, and EWTN Radio posts 11 podcasts every weekday and over 60 per week. So you never have to miss your favorite EWTN programs, and they're all free. Just go to EWTN.com/radio/podcasts to listen and subscribe.
Okay, Frank has been waiting so patiently in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Hi, Frank. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Frank.
Hello.
Hi. I hope everybody's having a good day. I happened to turn the radio on and listen to the lady you just talking to. And I told your screener that the reason I called was hopefully this will help a whole bunch of people. What had helped me was one day I asked myself, why am I the way I am? And it took a while to understand it. But when you do this, too, do not look to blame, look for the cause. And in regards to the lady that called in with her mother, about her mother, it relates back to her life experiences is what it does. And when you understand that, it's easy to forgive their little faults that they had, but we all have faults. But what I'm basically saying is our past experiences it'll make us the way we are. In other words, once you understand why you are the way you are, you understand why they are the way they are.
Right. I think that's very well put, Frank. And my mind immediately goes to the take2show.com website where we post each day, the day before for the show of the day. And something I mentioned on there, I says these experiences can be very powerful forces in our lives as they go a long way towards shaping what we think of ourselves and how we live our lives. And I said, happily, we are very resilient beings, and we can take these things and turn them into positives. And I think, I've heard studies, Debbie, before, even babies in the womb can start to be formed in certain ways. If parents talk to the baby in the womb and pray over the womb, and it's like the music that they hear and the conversations that they hear. Not that they could cognitively make sense of all of it, but our formation really begins, I believe, the way I understand it, at the very earliest of ages. And so I think Frank asked what could be the $64,000 question we all could ask. Why am I the way I am? That's what he started with. I think it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that is really important, and that shows a lot of understanding of where you're headed. Okay, when you can really look at yourself and deeply do that inventory and understanding of oneself, you are able to embrace growth. Wouldn't you say, Frank? I think a lot of people get stuck. We've been told who we are. We've been labeled. We've been put in that box, and nobody ever attempts to open the lid of that box and get out. What do you think, Frank?
Right. Life isn't easy. And one thing to remember, every person you see when you're out walking around has issues. There are things that they're trying to resolve.
It's true.
That's one reason, like love thy neighbor as thyself.
Right.
Right.
But
like
Frank,
I say, to understand other people, you got to understand yourself too. Once you understand yourself, you can understand them.
Right. Well, Frank, love your neighbor as yourself. The unfortunate thing is a lot of people aren't comfortable in their own skin. They don't love themselves. And so when you don't love yourself, it's very easy to destroy the person that you encounter, because you're actually in some way you're validating how you feel about yourself. We're in a world that everybody can criticize very easily. Look at the world we're in right now. You can criticize so easily. But, to give those attaboys and those attagirls, a lot of counselors and therapists say it takes 1,000 attaboys or attagirls. When you do one negative comment, it takes 1,000 or so to slightly wipe it away. Slightly. That's the impact it has on us, because we're not made like that. We're made to grow. We're made to expand and evolve and to radiate God's love. And instead, we choose to lower the bar and just hurt one another with our words, which are so damaging. And in some ways, they're way worse than guns. At least if you have a gun, you can put an end to it quickly. This is like a lifelong, slow death. What do you think, Frank?
Yes. Well, basically, like I say, life isn't easy, but basically, my compass is I try to do the best I can from day to day. That's all I can do. And I put the rest in the hands of the man upstairs.
That's a great philosophy, Frank. I've said this on this show many times, and there's a saying that says, everyone you meet is engaged in a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always. And that is a good rule to live by there, Debbie. Frank, thank you for the call from West Virginia.
Thank you,
we
Frank.
hope that you have a fantastic day.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, Jerry? Do you think we're in a world right now that everybody can easily hurl insults and criticisms at each other?
Oh, my. Yeah. I think there's so much vitriol and just so much toxic speech. And there's just people hate other people without even meeting them, without even knowing who they are.
It's true.
Knowing them, where they're coming from. So, yeah,
Right.
I agree with you completely.
Good discussion. We have a few minutes left, and we'd like to get Loretta on from Louisiana, listening on Sirius XM 130. A first-time caller. Hi, Loretta. Welcome.
Hi. Nice to meet y'all.
Likewise.
Thank you.
My bitterness from a grieving standpoint is my husband was killed in an automobile accident 13 years ago due to the negligence of a 18-wheeler driver on the phone and not paying attention to what he was supposed to be doing. But the Lord helped me see that that driver didn't get up that morning with the intentions of killing someone or taking someone's life. And the Lord gave me a scripture that I heard many, many times in Mass, read it for myself, and it was, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So through prayer from family and friends, and just staying as close to the Lord as I possibly could, it helped me not have bitterness and anger towards that driver and the circumstances, because my husband and I were only married for 15 years.
Oh.
And we had children. But if you can stay close to God, He is a faithful and supportive God. And through the Virgin Mary, I prayed through her. And it's hard not to be angry. I was never angry with God because I knew His work was, my husband's work was done here. Has it been easy? No, never. It's never easy in grief. But you learn to adjust. You learn to adjust to a new way of life. And God is always there with you,
right,
walking you through it.
Well, the Holy Spirit, and like you said, the Holy Spirit. Loretta, I have to ask you a quick question because we're going to run out of time here. First of all, if you feel comfortable giving us your husband's first name, we're so sorry for your loss. That must have been so traumatic for you and the family. And if you could give us his first name, we keep a book. But think about that for a second. I just want to ask you real quickly, did you ever share with the driver of the car the same thing you just shared with us, that the way you got through this, although you were in incredible sadness and grief, and you have bouts of anger over this, and rightly so, did you ever share with this driver that the way you got through it is through the Holy Spirit, and that you know that person didn't wake up that morning with the intention to kill? I'm just curious, Loretta.
No, I've never had that opportunity. I've always wanted to do it. But the lawyer the people that took care of all of my stuff has since passed away. And I don't even really know how to go about trying to contact them. The company that my husband was working for is no longer in business.
Okay, but real quickly, then in that case, maybe ask your guardian angel to take it to this person's guardian angel. I think there's I feel strongly that this person's soul is not at peace, and I really believe that if you ask your guardian angel, they will take the message to this person's guardian angel, and that hopefully, God willing, that will definitely suffice, and maybe that could really help that other soul, which I know that's in your heart, Loretta. All souls, having a chance to get to heaven. What do you think? Could you do that? And also, could you give us your husband's first name?
Yes. His first name was Tracy.
Love it.
And yes, thank you for that advice. I never thought to do that because I pray to my guardian angel often.
Cool. Very good. Go ahead,
Awesome.
Jerry.
Well, thank you, Loretta. You hear that music? We are wrapping up the program here. Thanks to Michael and Jeff and Michael McCall, who's on the phones today. Thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. Tomorrow, it's the Feast of St. Martha, and we're going to be talking about that great saint and asking you, have you been Martha to others? Mary sat at the feet of Jesus. She was more the contemplative. Martha was busy about serving, and so it's important that we do both. So we want to hear from you tomorrow if you have served others and been Christ-like to them.